Welcome to Lightning Author Talks. This segment is produced by Mackay Regional Council Libraries. My name is Robin and I'll be your host for this series of chats where we introduce you to some of the local authors of Mackay. You'll get to know the author behind the book and what inspires them to write. But before we begin, I would like to acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land, the Yuwi people, on the land that which we meet today, pay respects to elders past, present and young emerging elders. We also recognise the Aboriginal people of the Birri Nation. Joining us today is Kim Kleidon, author of Huggle, Snuggle, Cuddle, a beautiful children's book. From 1999, Kim has warmly regarded Mackay region her forever home. Past years, she has developed prominent career roles in radio, media and marketing within our community. Reflecting over her career achievements, she thought it was time to explore how she could reach her personal best. Involving her full creative potential, this made way for her developing her own brand and business, KK Creative Content. She now educates and supports others to reach their own professional best. From the front page of Kim's website, you really get a feel of who Kim is. Passionate, professional, inspirational as it reads. Intent on changing the world one story at a time. Kim, welcome to Lightning Author Talks. It's a pleasure to have you here.
I'm almost embarrassed. That was lovely. Thank you, Robin.
You've written Huggle, Snuggle, Cuddle. A lot of people journal ideas, write down things that they would like to put into a story one day, but what was important about Huggle, Snuggle, Cuddle for you to actually get it into a published book?
This all began when I was having a conversation with a client one day, Charles Alder from Rural Aid, and we were talking about the high rate of mental health issues and suicides in regional and rural Australia, especially through the drought. It was 8 to 10 years and people were really struggling. And we looked at some other charities where they were doing children's books like for cancer. The McGrath Foundation was one I remember. And I thought, what a great idea, because our audience is women and children, to support the men in their life or their fathers, brothers in those rural and regional communities. And honestly, Robin, it just started downloading in my head. And for some reason, the idea about animals that hug was the linchpin, the foundation of this story. And I wanted children and mothers, fathers to understand how important embracing someone is, because it says so much more than words ever can. So it wrote itself, and that was in 2017, and that campaign, the Man Hug campaign, never got off the ground. Okay. And Charles and Tracy have left Rural Aid since and started up EcoForce, which is another business. And so I had this book, and last year when COVID hit, all of our events and all of our filming interstate just dried up overnight. So Jack and I were left with nothing but time on our hands, but had enough money in the bank not to worry about finances. And I thought, now's the time for me to push ahead on this. So I had the illustrations. It was all with the designer and she was taking her time. Love Megan. And I sort of just said to her, I've got enough funds now to get this done, and I need to do it before I run out of funds so that I've got it. So I just focused on what I could control, which was getting this book out. And because I've got grandchildren, the book had evolved over that time to include messages of empowerment for children to understand that they own their bodies and they can't be forced to hug someone if they don't want to. I have a grandson, he doesn't like to be touched, and you know, that's something we've been very aware of, that he doesn't like even people he knows touching him if he doesn't want to be touched. So, and I thought there must be a lot of children out there who feel that way and don't feel like they have enough say. You know, and as parents and as adults, how often do we catch ourselves saying, oh, go on, give your auntie a hug or give your grandfather a hug before we go? And I think it's really crossing a line. You know, there's a lot in the media at the moment about consent, and yet we don't start with children very young, teaching them they have the power to give consent over what they do. So the book's really evolved, and it just brightens my heart to see how it's been received by educators, parents, grandparents. It's been really embraced very lovingly. So it's been an exciting journey.
Now, I have noticed that you've got on your books a book of love and affection from Mimi. Now, you're affectionately known as Mimi to your 3 grandchildren. They have been the inspiration in getting it this far. You've had the idea, but I believe that they're the inspiration of then getting it into a book.
So writing for this age group came out of, I've always wanted to write children's books. I just didn't know what I was going to write about or how. And the rhyming came so naturally. And when I started sharing it with my grandchildren, they got really excited because they were in that 0 to 6 age group at the time. And so I realised that I had the potential to create books for them through me. And so I was interacting quite a lot with Pioneer Valley Kindergarten, the Lady Gary one out at Moranni. And they were so generous in welcoming people of, all ages, family members, to come and spend as much time as we wanted. And I found this great joy. So when the book came out last year and I went out and did a reading with the children, my grandson Henry, he was still there, he's at school now. And the joy on their faces and the joy every time I went there for a grandparent day or a morning tea, just those looks and the Mimi. So all the children called me Mimi. And it was just such a delight. And I actually realised that I still had this deep connection to young children. And I love spending every second of the time I get with them because they're full of wonder and there's so much they want to know. So, it's just been one of those connective points for not just me and my grandchildren, but other children of those ages. I lock eyes with them everywhere I go, and I'll often be on the street. I left the library one day and I walked across the road and there was a grandmother with her grandson walking along, and he had an ice cream and he was just the right age and he was so cute and he just locked eyes with me. I'm like, hello, little man. And I just started this conversation and he was so open and trying to share his ice cream with me. I said to his grandma, would you mind if I gave him a book? And so it happens all the time on planes, in Townsville and all over the place. If I lock eyes with a child and they're just adorable, I give them a book.
And that is a very beautiful gift to actually give to a child, having that book, especially with this content in it. Kim, you've just discussed how you've gone out to childcare centres and read and kindies and read. My next question was, did you ever think it was going to take you this far? But with your dynamic personality and having that intuitiveness of what children need and respecting their abilities, respecting their own rights, can you further tell us, did you really think it was going to take you this far?
No. When I first wrote this book, like I said, there was a feeling and a meaning behind it. It wasn't until I went to Melbourne in March of 2020 and I was working with my designer then because I didn't publish till July. And I'd been down to visit her and explore some bookshops and look at other children's books in the market. And my son's partner, Joe, is a teacher at an inner city Melbourne school. And I was reading it to them in the lounge room. And he's just piped up and gone, oh my goodness, I love it. He goes, as soon as you've got them, I want one to take to school. And he's a primary school teacher. I'm like, why? He goes, well, there's, literary components to it through rhyming and the way the words you've used. And he started talking about all these different elements of English, which is long forgotten for me. And I was just blown away. I had never actually thought about the early childhood, applications of what I was writing. It was more so for me something to connect parents and children when they're, bedtime reading or when children are reading in that, because the animals are the cute, furry, and just like animals, we hug and we embrace, and a lot of mammals are like us as well. So there's environmental messages, there's, the English application, there's the joy of just talking about huggle, snuggle, cuddle, and all those different elements of what being human is and being able to show affection and feel love. So if you had have said to me 12 months ago, this is what would have happened, I probably wouldn't have believed you.
And I think that's evidence too, because today we're very excited to have your second book, Flutter by Butterfly, with us today as well. Can you explain what Flutter by Butterfly is about, please?
It's another book, very educational as well. I think I've struck this chord. It also is in rhyme. Everything I do is in rhyme. Grandpa's Garden, which is being illustrated now, it's also in rhyme and focuses on a local man, Kev, He sells herbs and veggie seedlings at the markets.
Oh, lovely.
Anyway, that's another story. So Flutterby Butterfly, it plays on words. So my grandma, who this book's dedicated to, Joyce, she loved wordplay, and she called me her orchid, which is significant. You've got one there.
Significant.
And Flutterby is sort of a reversal of the letters of butterfly. So you're just putting the FL in front and the B back. And so she always called them Flutterbys when I was a child. And so it takes me back to time with her. And in March last year, I was driving out to my daughter's, and I'm not sure if you remember, we had an explosion of butterflies in the regions, millions of the predominantly blue tigers. And I remember just thinking, why do we have so many butterflies around at the moment? And it was that day I actually found out that a friend of mine whom I'd been to visit at Flying Fish Point in the north died, and he died suddenly overnight. He wasn't well, but he was living on his own, and he probably should have been in care. Anyway, so Tony and I had a connection with butterflies. He actually collected the glass,
beautiful
sets of butterflies that are bred for that type of thing. And when I'd driven up to see him prior to that, I'd seen some of the first birdwings, the Cairns birdwing, which is a beautiful green and gold butterfly. Anyway, on this particular day, all these butterflies were in the air, and I started singing Flutterby, Butterfly, and this tune came into my head, and I thought, oh my goodness, that's a children's, kindy song. And I went, oh, it's a book. And it was a Thursday or something when I was heading out to Morani. And anyway, it didn't really come to me until the Saturday when my husband went to work, because it gave me time to sort of sit down and actually nut it out. So I recorded a few words on my phone, and then on the weekend I started writing. And honestly, 15 minutes later, I had the first draft of this book. It was only a month ago when I recognised the opportunity of comparison between the egg caterpillar butterfly life cycle and the egg embryo child life cycle. So I then went back to Di, and I'm like, I need another illustration. So Di Skelly-Heron she was a local artist here in Mackay. She's since moved down to the Sunshine or Gold Coast and further south, I think. But anyway, Di does a wonderful job of bringing my stories to life. And when I'm talking to her over the phone, she's downloading images of the words I've downloaded myself. So there's definitely a beautiful connection between the two of us. And I love working with her. Di's also worked with children. I think the themes in these books are the things that are resonating with children, and I'm on this real journey at the moment to explore other things, and Grandpa's Garden is another way of looking through the eyes of his grandchildren at how you grow food. Then we'll go into diet. So I've got Megan the vegan, Colin the carnivore, and Petra the pescatarian. I've also written Sing, Dance, Draw. So it's really just going to keep going. I don't stop writing ever.
I love to hear all of the other stories that you've got coming on, which is fantastic. And you've engaged Di also to do the illustrations for each of those.
Grandpa's Garden is already under illustration with Di, and it should be out next year. So unless, a miracle happens, and, because she does have a lot of work that she does as well with exhibiting, and they have a business, her and her husband, Graham. But yeah, no, Di's a treasure. She's one of those people that I'm so grateful to have in my life. And designed by Donna. Megan did the first one, whom I worked with at Reef Catchments, and then Donna from BB Print, she helped me with the design layout, because you need to get artwork done to send off to a printer. When you're self-publishing, that's probably one of the biggest learning curves I've had, is the process, and then having to, figure it out. So getting ISBNs, registering the book, sending a copy to the National Library, getting it on Trove, so that people know it exists and that it's a legitimate book by an Australian author. The whole process has been fantastic. And, if anyone out there is interested in pursuing something like this, I'd be more than happy to connect with them through my website.
Lovely. What's your favourite place to write, Kim? Do you always, like you were saying that you were travelling in the car, do you quickly pull over and jot notes down as you're driving, or you just let those thoughts develop for a short time and then get your ideas down? Or do you have a certain place that you enjoy writing in?
There is no specific place that I write. I am very fortunate to live on 10 acres of beautiful land, surrounded by Ulysses butterflies and many other species like the blue tiger. Lots of plants and trees. We have goats, we have chickens, we have roosters, bees, fish, and dogs. So it's quite a busy little farm. But when I look out the window, it's just nature at its best and all of our food. And it's quite the place to be, I suppose, withdrawn from all of the hubbub and the bustle of, life, which is what most people get every day, is going to work and coming home and, cooking meals and looking after children, and it all starts again the next day, whereas my life is never the same on any 2 days. So no, I don't really have a specific place to write. A lot of my writing is done at my computer, sitting at our table looking out over the land, and I'm inspired by many different things, but it can come to me anywhere, and it just starts downloading, and I just start writing.
It's a very beautiful gift, and I guess with nature's inspiration in front of you too, that's just wonderful where the ideas come freely for you. Now, if a book was to be written about you, what should the title be?
I don't know. I don't really think about myself through other people's eyes very often, and I probably should, because I've suffered anxiety and depression in my life and been suicidal at times. And I think that when you feel like you don't maybe matter to people, it's probably a blessing to be able to see yourself through the people who love you and the people who think so highly of you. But we don't often tell people, do we?
We don't.
How often do we tell people what they mean to us, and how wonderful, what joy they bring us, or the other qualities that people have that we interact with all the time, but we never express that. Hence the hugging. Sometimes a hug is all you need, just to validate and verify that that person really feels something for you.
It says so much, doesn't it, just in that one hug?
So I think I could not tell you a title of a book for me. I would think that, well, yes, I can. It would probably be something along the lines of The Life of a Wild Child, and I think there's a lot of books out there with wild child in it, but I know my mother would tell you that I was one of the biggest rebels she's ever encountered in her life, and I was very difficult to wrangle. So, yeah, maybe, Mimi the Rebel.
It's a good title. Maybe we'll see that down the track.
I am actually writing my own memoir at the moment, and I'm starting an 8-week writing course with Susan Pearce online, doing a virtual course with her. So I've decided I want to move through, once I publish the range of 0 to 6, I'm going to start writing for my grandchildren at their age they are now, which is, they're 6 to 8. So I'm going to move into that junior fiction. So I thought maybe it'd be nice to write for age specific as they grow. And so they'll always have books that I've been able to share with them about subjects I feel really important legacy to leave to them.
That is a very, very beautiful idea. There is a title that has come to mind that I thought your book should be written, and it's just simply From the Heart, because everything that you do comes from the heart, and you can certainly see that in your books here today.
That's beautiful.
Kim, if there's one message that you would like to leave listeners with, what would that be?
Children are precious. They are the future. And I think that if we took it more seriously and we spent the time with them, and it's not even quantity time, it's more quality time. And that's what I'm hoping to bring with some of these books, is that we actually think about the words we use around children, how we empower them or how we don't, and really concentrate on giving them our best right now, because the world needs them. We are facing some of the most difficult challenges in the history of humanity. And if we don't instill those qualities of resilience and risk and tenacity and support our children and give them everything they need to be lifted and, believe in themselves, I think we're going to be in a lot of trouble. So the one message I would have is, love your children, show them that you love them, and share stories with them that are going to help them into the future, as opposed to ones that might tell them that they're not good enough because I know how that plays out.
Kim, thank you for sharing so much with us today. And that is a very beautiful message to leave the viewers with and just to resonate around. If people would like to get in contact with you, do you have a website or socials that they can get in contact with you?
Yes, I'm on LinkedIn, Facebook. Unless you know someone on Facebook who knows me, you might have a bit of trouble there. I have very high privacy settings, but my website is kimkleidon.com, and that's just KIMKLEIDON.com. And you'll find a whole heap of resources there and a little bit of information about me, points of contact where you can email me, and all of my socials are there as well. So there's Instagram, Facebook, and LinkedIn.
Fantastic. Kim, it's been an absolute pleasure to have you for Lightning Author Talks today, and we wish you all the very best for the future. Thank you for joining us.
Robin, thank you.
Thank you. Viewers, if you would like to catch up with a few of our other author talks, please have a look on our website. It's been an absolute pleasure to present Kim Kleidon today. Thank you for joining us. Until next time, happy reading.